So in this video, I want to go over a day in the life of a uni student, just very briefly, as one who's studying their Masters of Education currently, and go through the three devices for consideration. The first one being the iPad Pro. Mine's a 2018 model, because when was the last time you ever heard somebody say that their iPad was just too slow for what they needed to do? Neither have I. The second device is the Macbook Air. This one's rose gold, has the M1 chip in it, and honestly, I've been using it for the past year, and I've really liked it. And the last one is, of course, the MacBook Pro 16-inch in all of its glory, notch and all. Big, thick build and everything included. And we'll go through the pros and cons and determine what is right for you, because it really depends on what you're studying, what you need it for, and whether you have the budget for it. Alright, so here we go. So as a student, you'll probably get up out of bed at around 7 AM, complete your morning rituals, whether it's meditation, reading, or exercising, and then getting in the required water intake to get to university, where you'll attend classes, go have lunch, and study some more. Except, that's not me. This is probably what my day looks like. No, but seriously, this just shows the various types of students that exist. You could be an online student where you're barely even on the campus and do all your work essentially at home, or a more traditional student that actually goes on campus, attends their classes, and actually interacts with the real world. With that being said though, although there are variations in the type of student you are and how you study and what you study, there are 4 common factors that I want to go over in considering what type of laptop might best suit you. The first one is portability, the second one is power, third is utility, and fourth is finally price. Now portability is probably going to be number 1 on the list because, well, as a uni student and if you're wandering around campuses, you really don't want to be lugging around a gaming laptop that's maybe 2 to 3 kilos and might only last you 3 to 4 hours.
This thing is super portable. No.
And so for this purpose, obviously the poor old 16-inch here that comes in between 2 to 3 kilos is taken out of the list entirely. In my opinion, it's still relatively portable in terms of weight. At 2 kilos to me isn't that heavy, but it's just in terms of size, it is rather a thick boy. And which leaves us only really with the MacBook Air and the iPad Pro. Now coming in at 600 grams, the 2018 or whichever iPad Pro, mine's a 10 to 11 inch, is perfect for taking down notes within classes and drafting your assessments for submission. Very easy, it can handle that, no problem. Now the MacBook Air is only slightly heavier at just over 1 kilo, both of which you can really just throw within your bag. Both the iPad Pro and the MacBook Air I have thoroughly enjoyed using to take down notes, whether I'm on the campus, in the library, eating or drinking at a cafe and doing some work. They are great portable devices, very light to carry around, and their battery life lasts for a long time. And because they're so small and portable, there's always room left on the side for you to put your snacks. Now the next category is power, and this one is really subjective and I think is the one category that has all students really stumped over. Do I need more power to grab the 16? Do I get the 13? Do I get the iPad? With that being said though, I think it's very important for all of us to be honest with ourselves. If you're a student who knows for sure that you need that extra power because you're doing some creative work, design work, some heavy editing, then you're probably going to need the MacBook Pro 16-inch. Now, whether it falls within your budget is another question, but for power purposes, you're probably going to need something like this that has much more graphical power for you to crunch through your work. With that being said though, the MacBook Air with the M1 chip in itself is no slouch. It's not too drastically different from the MacBook Pro 16-inch in terms of processing power. Yes, it might be a bit slower, but it will eventually get there. Now, so that's all the heavy users out of the way, which probably form like maybe 15 or so % of all student demographics. Now for the rest of us who do a business degree, arts, law, whatever the case may be, and we just need to make sure everything runs smoothly in terms of workflow and to process some documents, read through some PDFs, highlight a couple of things, and maybe watch a lecture or two because we might have missed it in person.
You smart.
And if you're in that category, which most of you will be, then all you will need is really the MacBook Air to do all your processing. And if you really want to go portable and you've used previous iPads and you know that you can work well and manage your documents really well on an iPad because it's all within the cloud, then the iPad, even the 2018 model iPad Pro, does a great job with all your documenting needs. Now for me as a master's student, this iPad Pro 2018 has more than enough power to open multiple PDF documents in GoodNotes for me to highlight, take things down, switch back to a Word document or do a split screen in the middle and continue typing away. Now, the only limitation within this is obviously screen real estate, which means that you might head towards the MacBook Air instead of using the iPad. But if you're able to work with smaller screens and you're happy to use an iPad Pro, then this is really all you need. With that being said though, one of your assessments may be that you have to do a presentation, it's multimedia and all that type of stuff, and that you might need the MacBook Air to process all of those things for, and to even plug into HDMI cord and use, a clicker to present. So in terms of power, if you know you need a lot of power, MacBook Pro 16-inch, and I'm sure lecturers and whatnot will make this very apparent, or you'll know because other students are going, my computer's really laggy, you'll know the stuff. If you're just an average student, I would go MacBook Air, just for all the things that I've mentioned before. You need, I find it easier to type on a 13-inch, and then if you're a hardcore, I want light, portable, I only want to carry one device in my hand, I don't even want to carry a bag with me, iPad Pro. Even the older ones, if you can get that refurbished, are great, excellent deals. Now the next category is utility. Now with utility, I kind of touched on it before with battery life and a bit about screen size, but we also got to think about the operating system and also the software that you can use within each given device. And if we're talking about utility, the iPad Pro unfortunately gets a no from me because all of the features that it lacks and just the lack of screen real estate. It's great for typing up documents, but if it's your only device, it's a really hard one to utilize for everything that you're going to need as a student. Now, with that being said, I do know a lot of students who daily the iPad Pro. They're really great with using different types of software to manage all the files and folders. Like GoodNotes is a great example, and they're really good at saving all their documents into the cloud as well. But for the rest of us, the ability to use macOS with its computing features that we're probably more familiar with allows us to easily navigate through the endless world of Word documents and PDFs. Now, if you're looking at the differences between the 13 and 16-inch, well, it's pretty evident, like the screen real estate is the major difference. I can split screen the 13-inch, no problem, but if the PDF has a lot of text, then it kind of gets really difficult to read, which then makes me just want to whole screen the PDF in general. On the 16-inch, no problems. I should be able to do both of those things, zoom in and out of the PDF. Plus, on both of these devices, given they are laptops, they include a full keyboard, which you have to buy as an extra on any given iPad that you purchase, which, if you know, is quite expensive. But out of the two, for utility purposes, as a student, it's really hard for me, again, to recommend this beautiful 16-inch MacBook Pro because the MacBook Air gives you all the utility you need. And for most people, I don't think they need a 16-inch screen. Again, it goes back to the portability as well, right? It's not going to be very portable for you to carry around, which then reduces the utility that it has for you when you're walking around campus. So the MacBook Air is probably the best on balance for utility purposes. Now, finally, this is the big one. Price. In terms of pricing, if you're a student, do not forget to check out at Apple if you're purchasing through them with the student discount. Or if you can find it refurbished, go through their refurbished part of the site as well. That works really well. With that being said though, do not spend extra money unless you really need it. And this is something that I want to make very clear. As uni students, generally we're not working that many hours unless you're one of those hustle grind, work full-time and study full-time, which I've done before and I've burnt myself out. So I don't know if it's really worth it. But if you're looking at the price, spending 2 to 3K is not worth it for the purposes of studying. Which again, unfortunately for my budding old 16-inch here is a no-go. Now for my verdict, I think this really depends on the type of user you are. Like I mentioned, I know lots of people who function off the iPad quite easily and have great file management systems in place. So if you're the type of person that enjoy iPad OS and just enjoy carrying an iPad around and nothing else really, then go with the iPad Pro. It's going to serve you quite well. If you need the extra real estate, go up to the 13-inch. I personally don't think it's worth it. I would probably go towards the iPad Air if I was going up to 13-inch, but again, each to their own. Now for the average student, I would say 90% of students go with the MacBook Air. It's the best price to power ratio that you'll get out of these three devices. And the utility on it, having macOS, is going to give you so much more versatility than using iPad OS. And with the new M1 chip in there, it's going to last you the whole day and then some as a uni student as well. It's a great device. I mean, there's nothing I can really fault it for. I've put it under a lot of stress. I've gamed on the MacBook Air, believe it or not, as well. And it just doesn't really get that hot. It doesn't even heat up. And again, it's so light, you could just throw it in your bag, not really have it weigh you down like a MacBook Pro 16-inch or a gaming laptop might do. But yes, those are my thoughts. The winner here is the MacBook Air. If you need more power, MacBook Pro. If you're an iPad nut, then go with the iPad Pro. I hope this helps you guys clarify with some of your thoughts or some of the things that you might be thinking about before making your purchase. But anyways, guys, if you've made it to the end of this video, leave me some emojis at the bottom in the comment section to let me know that you've made it. I really appreciate your time. I hope this helps you guys. Anyways, guys, I'll catch you guys later. Cheers.